Color is everywhere. Colors are everywhere. And each of them evoke a certain feeling in us. But what feeling they evoke depends on what we associate with it. For example, the color green means that something is very rich, sort of like a plant or like some very nice grass or something. It's even the color of money, but when someone mentions the color green, a lot of people tend to think of the worst things first. Vomit, green poop. And in this video, we're going to talk about how you can use these feelings, or should I say colors, to your storytelling advantage. So leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. Enjoy. Some more good examples of some blue characters. Sully from Monsters Inc., Blob from Monsters vs. Aliens, Gumball Watterson, Nicole Watterson. But these blue characters, they sort of strike you with this non-aggression. Not weak. I guess they're seen as a friend. Blue's Clues. That dog is blue, and I love that dog. Whenever you put a bunch of blue characters or characters that wear blue together, you seem to find a pattern. All of these are just genuine, likable subjects. I mean, a couple of these are up to debate, but most of these are likable characters. They're likable characters, and them being blue makes us think that even more, subconsciously, when you see the color. Imagine you wake up, and the sky is a dark blue. Not regular blue, like how it usually is on a sunny day. A dark blue, it's like 5 in the morning. I'm feeling pretty calm, and that's basically what the color blue represents. Calmness, chillness. Sometimes smarter characters will have the color blue on them because, I mean, being calm and composed and being smart are usually things that intersect within characters. And the things that tend to be peaceful, that tend to be stable, that always tend to be, no matter what, the sun always comes up and the sky is blue. No matter what, the sun comes up and the water is blue and the ocean is blue. The color blue really does play a central part in a lot of our lives. Yeah. Perfect example of good use of color in media is SpongeBob. The use of color here is so straightforward. Yellow for SpongeBob because he's happy. Blue for Squidward because he's always gloomy. He's always sad. He's always grumpy. He's never really. I mean, he does get mad sometimes, but most of the time he's like more of a gloomy, grumpy sort of more defined of it. He's better defined as grumpy. Patrick is pink for innocence. He's like the dumbest character in the show. He's dumber than SpongeBob, which is kind of crazy. Second dumbest in the show, only to SpongeBob. And then there's Mr. Krabs, always yelling at everyone, always wanting money, and he's the boss. And then there's Plankton, always scheming. I told you I was right. Pearl, same thing with the innocence, and then the indifference of the whale color. Gray. I meant to say gray. And again, Larry, the pink shell, innocence. It's his pet. It's SpongeBob's pet. And then the blue, not in a sad way, but in a we're just okay with him type of way. Same thing with Larry the Lobster's shorts. It adds a sort of we're cool with him type factor to a very threatening character. And the tones of blue used in Mr. Krabs' uniform really invoke like he's got some sort of status, like he's kind of like pimping. Like just look at that belt. That belt is that just screams money. The brown shirt and no pants for Squidward to emphasize how mundane the color really is, how mundane his life, this task of working is for him. This is a dumb thing to say, but if Sandy was a red character, then she would stick out like a sore thumb, obviously. Pay attention to how this sort of like underwater astronaut suit thing she's got going and how it's white. It sort of paints her as a blank slate in terms of how the color hooks up to our emotions. Now remember when I said that the color blue makes Squidward look sad? Even grumpy, you could say, made Squidward look grumpy, or how the blue that Mr. Krabs wears represents wealth, or more or less just status, and how Larry the Lobster's use of blue in his character design emphasizes how he's chill, how he's just okay. Well, the colors behind things, the colors of things are one. The color is one thing, but the context behind it is another. For example, there's this red apple, and it looks very vibrant, and it looks very delicious. So, why does it look so tempting? Why does it look so good? I'm a big apple fan, if you couldn't tell. And if it's just a regular apple, then why shouldn't I just eat it? But what if I told you that this apple is actually poison? This apple is actually poisonous. This apple is actually poisonous. This is exactly what happens in Snow White. And when Snow White leans in to take a bite of that apple, it's alarming. It causes stress within the viewer. Like, don't eat that apple. And a lot of colors, along with their context, help us avoid these type of things. Don't stop in front of the train. Don't walk into the train. Don't hit pedestrians. These are all things you should avoid. But one thing I'm not going to avoid is going into how the context of the color can change its entire meaning. That colors not only set up characters, demeanors, and attitudes and actions in the story, but it also fleshes them out. It encourages it. It gives them an identity. Let's take a look at the Cookie Monster and Dr. Manhattan, two characters who are almost completely blue. Comparing these two, Dr. Manhattan looks wise. They both use the same color, and yet they both look completely different because of the shapes they take. And because of the shape, the form that they take, and the color that they just have on them, the shape they take, the form that they present themselves with, Dr. Manhattan looks wise, like he knows, like he's all-knowing. I've never watched Watchmen before, by the way, and this is what I'm getting from it. Now, Cookie Monster looks like the direct opposite of this. Kind of looks like the opposite of this. Kind of looks like the opposite of that. He almost looks mindless, or even stupid. Like he's just there. Maybe he's happy to be there. I think he's just fine with being there. Like there isn't much going through his head. And actually there isn't really a color that, while blue is usually, while a big thing of, while a lot of characters that are associated with the color blue are also associated with intelligence, there is no color that signifies stupidity or lack of intelligence. The blue that the Cookie Monster embodies is more of a chill blue, an extension to the chillness, almost more of an indifference. He does not care, and it doesn't even seem like he has the mind to care about it. Anything can be the color blue. It just matters what thing is blue. It's just a specific breed of stupidity. A stupid character could be the color red, and he could be stupid because they're so like mad or passionate all the time that they don't really have time to think, or never put out any time to think. The color blue makes Mordecai look cool. It makes Sonic look cool. The color doesn't matter as much as who or what is wearing it. But thankfully, most things don't consist of only one color. In a good character design, this isn't necessary for it to be good, but most character designs consist of more than one color. Take King Crimson, for example. It has the lack of there being, and this doesn't have much to do with color, but the lack of there being a nose here adds to this mindlessness. The white makes him seem like he's a blank slate in terms of mind, and then the red just makes him look ferocious, like he's an animal. He looks mindless, like he only acts on instinct, which in the show King Crimson does. Just the name King Crimson evokes fear, because the word king is used, but that's for another video. This plus the green skeptical eyes just really seal the deal. A good example of the use of color coordination in teams is when color coordinated teams is when teams coordinated is back when we need to talk about color grading. When you take these colors and you put them on an entire landscape, it gives it such like a more different vibe. Usually the size and amount of this color that's put on anything can like convey enough. And when it's the entire screen, it's like a vast wasteland. I've seen a good amount of movies use the cold blue color grading. It just makes everything look cold and like a vast wasteland where almost like nothing can thrive out there, or nothing's supposed to be out there or thrive out there. Another example of this is that I've been saying that red sort of has like almost a villainous tone to it throughout this video, and yet the Red Ranger, the main hero of the Power Rangers, like the leader, wears red. So it's more of a passionate, vigorous red than like a villainous one. One more thing, I'm also talking about colors like just the color, but we don't talk about the colors that are in between the colors, like the slight blend of blue and purple. And blends like this can emphasize both sides, both colors, but to a certain extent, depending on how green it is or how blue it is, you get what I mean. Depending on how blue it is or how green it is. In Whiplash, they use one of the main color gradings they use is this blend of bluish green, like I can't tell if it's blue or green. I don't know. It's like it makes some things look blue, but that makes other things look green, if that makes sense. And these two sides to one color make it easier to attach a context to it because it's more broad, having two colors in it. So Whiplash's color grading is actually two color. This green, we'll just call it green. The movie Whiplash is filmed in the color green and the color orange. Because of this, the color orange also shares some traits with its red and yellow counterparts, but sort of a half-breed of them both, kind of like their child. It can represent optimism, confidence, enthusiasm, warmth, and agreeableness. Perfect example of this, annoying orange. Even though it says optimism, confidence, enthusiasm, warmth, and agreeableness on Google when I asked them what the color orange symbolizes, in Whiplash is far from what it means. In the cold opening of Whiplash, it begins with our main character drumming, practicing. Then Fletcher, the antagonist to the story, walks in with a black shirt. For reference, our main character, Andrew, is wearing a white shirt. In this scene, the black shirt that Terrence wears is representative of his seriousness. It's sort of like he's saying, I'm better than you, with J.K. Simmons' acting performance, and as well as the black shirt he's wearing as well. Meanwhile, Andrew just seems like a blank slate, like he doesn't know what he's doing. He made him look bad. The black represents his professionalism, and the white represents his prepubescent beginner status in his eyes. To sum it up, it seems that the black means focused, and then the white means unfocused. Maybe. Just a maybe, though. But all the while, the color grading of the scene is the same cold greenish blue. This makes scenes look cold, as I've previously said, and it makes things that are cold colder. Then in the following movie theater scene, where he goes to the movie theater with his father, who's very old, and they're both very old to be doing this still, and yet it's sort of like this sort of heartwarming family tradition. So to accommodate for the warmness, the color grading becomes orange, and now the setting becomes orange because it's heartwarming to warm up the setting. 2, it emphasizes how warm the exchange is in this scene as well. But when the topic of Terrence watching him play is brought up, the movie turns on and the color grading becomes that cold blue. And to put the nail in the coffin, Andrew tells his father that he doesn't like putting the raisins in the popcorn that his father so loves. And then the scene ends with that cold remark and that cold color. And this pattern of the color grading changing depending on the scene goes throughout the entire movie. The girl who works at the movie theater out on a date, and they have this beautifully awkward exchange. The color grading is warm, orange. And Terrence welcomes him with a warm joke, poking at his age, him being 19. And this is practice. So whenever someone messes up, his insanely vulgar comments, always offensive as can be, come out when Neiman least expects it. Someone is out of tune. In the second most famous scene of this movie, as these insults set in, Neiman slowly realizes what he's getting himself into. Color correction is where a picture is taken and the colors try to match up to how it actually looked like in real life. But what we're here to talk about is color grading, which is when the colors of things on screen are changed, including the hue and the saturation and the coldness and the warmness of the color, so that it evokes a certain emotion. But emotions are not the only thing that colors are used to represent, or to invoke emotions are not the only use of colors. For example, in the 4 nations in Avatar: The Last Airbender, the 4 nations in the context of the world of Avatar each correspond with certain colors. Let's take a look at each nation's architecture. The Fire Kingdom has black, red, and orange, and even some yellow in their architecture. The Earth Kingdom uses brown, yellow, and green architecture. The Water Nation's architecture is just blue, because it's all made of ice. And the Air Nomads use white, blue, and yellow, but significantly more white is emphasized in their buildings. Air Nomads wear red and orange, and a little bit of yellow sometimes. Fire Nation members always wear red, with some black. The Earth Kingdom usually always wears green, and some yellow, or sometimes white. And the Water Kingdom, of course, always wears blue, with a white accent as well. And whoever's wearing these colors, you assume that they're from whatever nation or tribe because of the color. We then find out that each nation has its principles, and the stereotypes of each nation are pointed out. People from the Earth Nation are immovable, they're very stubborn. Meanwhile, members of the Fire Nation are very passionate. Water Nation members go with the flow, and Air Nation people they're just chill. Everybody likes them. And not only does this line up in universe, but our discussion of what colors evoke which emotion line up with this as well. The whole Fire Nation being passionate with the color red, the Water Nation going with the flow and being chill like blue, the Earth Nation being stubborn like the color green, and the Air Nomads being universally liked like the color yellow, or like characters that have the color yellow in their palette, you know what I mean. Fire. Now there's so many emotions that not all of them have a corresponding color to them. So sometimes you have to get creative with your color language. And how do you do this? Just change the context. For example, Courage the Cowardly Dog adds context to the color pink, as not only is he innocent, but he is scared. There's no color that represents being scared. Except yellow, I guess, but that's more of a phrase more than whatever. Another series that uses colors very well is Squid Game. Our main characters are all enveloped in this teal, bluish, greenish uniform. And it shows exactly how all of them feel. I love it. Because they're literally risking their lives out here. It's a mix of blue and green, a mix of I'm fine with this, and a mix of I'm skeptical of this. Meanwhile, the red, or rather pink suits that the workers wear, and those who are orchestrating the Squid Game, is sort of like this unsettling red, but pinkness as if it's like a kid's game. It's a type of playfulness that they exude. But you must not forget that they incorporate red too. And in that way, they are pretty violent, as is shown throughout the show, especially in that organ harvesting scene. But then there's the front man, the very wealthy guy who owns the entire Squid Game thing. He wears all black. What else is there to say? It's supposed to make him look wealthy, ominous, scary, mysterious, all these things at once. And the VIPs, who also wear all yellow and some black, but they're color graded to be more yellow anyways, but they all wear the golden masks. They were always cracking jokes, and honestly, they're not really too likable. I thought they were kind of funny, but I think everything's funny, so it doesn't matter. But they're really actually quite jerks, and I think the black suits that they wear sort of emphasize this, and that one that's wearing the red tie as well. But they are also cowards too, because they're all just watching these people risk their lives. They are invited here. They're the elites. It makes sense. The color code in Breaking Bad can help convey how an item or a person fits into the story or feels during each scene. It also shows how characters relate to one. Green symbolizes greed and money, growth, and even envy. In the very first episode of the show, when Walter first starts cooking meth for his family, he's wearing nothing but a green apron and whitey tighties. Blue can represent loyalty and purity. This is mostly seen 99.9% pure crystal meth that he makes. When Walter and Skyler check up on their money, they're wearing blue. They're both wearing blue. And when Huel and Kubi check up on the money for them, they're both wearing the same exact colors. Honestly, I think every series, every movie should have a color code like this. The meth being codenamed as Blue Sky. And Walter's wife, Skyler White, Sky, has blue eyes. Blue is also the color of ribbons that people wear after they hear about that are dedicated to a plane crash incident. Pink represents innocence. In an aforementioned plane crash, a pink teddy bear lands in Walter's pool from said plane crash. This also happens while he's wearing a pink sweater because he just found out that his cancer has stopped. Black symbolizes death and secrecy. Walter White's street literally has the word black in Spanish in it. Jane almost exclusively wears black in the show, and she does keep a lot of secrets as Jesse is trying to get to know her. And when Skyler flirts with another man, she wears black. And after Jane leaves him, Jesse wears all gray while listening to her voice message. Gustavo wears a gray overshirt on top of his black undershirt at his, let's just say, work party. Gray is symbolic of like regret and asking for forgiveness and stuff like that. Guilt or regret. Gustavo wears his blouse on the outside while his true feelings on the inside, which Schwarz is German for black. Elliot and Gretchen Schwartz, and Gustavo clearly is keeping some secrecy and is acting as a harbinger of death here, because alcohol that they've bought for the party, there's poison in. And later on, he goes to the bathroom and takes off this gray blouse, revealing the black undershirt he has underneath, and then he manually vomits out the alcohol that has poison in it, letting everybody else outside die. The reason that two twins wear gray is because of the guilt and mourning over their cousin's death. That's why they're trying to get revenge on Walter White. Because of what Walter White did to their cousin, they want to get revenge. The symbolism of white in Breaking Bad is non-violence, a bit of innocent splash in there, but that's more of Pink's job, and new beginnings. Combo, distributor, was non-violent, but which actually left him defenseless against whenever a threat would come by. White is also the last name of Walter White and his family. When Walter would make meth, and we've mentioned previously that Walter wore the green apron and the whitey tighties. The creators of Breaking Bad wanted this to look like a diaper, symbolizing that Walter was stepping into this world like the world of the cartel, like a newborn baby. Yellow represents danger in Breaking Bad. In the first episode, when Walter's being told about his cancer diagnosis, he's distracted by the yellow mustard stain on his doctor's coat. He's also wearing a yellow shirt when he confronts the teenagers who are making fun of his disabled son in a clothing store. Walter almost got stabbed with a piece of yellow plate before. Brown represents strength. Hank's wearing a brown shirt when he's bragging about being in the DEA and showing off his gun to Walter Jr. And Skyler wears brown when she visits Ted Beneke after anonymously giving him money that was supposed to be for his debt, but he didn't do that, so that's why she's coming to confront him about it. Jesse's mom kicks him out of his aunt's old house while wearing purple. Purple is the color of royalty. It also means safety and self-deception. Marie almost always wears purple throughout the entire show, and you can see, and so you really get the idea that purple means like you're royal, like you think you're royal, you're self-entitled, and that's the self-deception aspect of the color purple in Breaking Bad. And Gustavo Fring is wearing a purple suit when he's about to put the injection into his long-standing enemy. Orange symbolizes humor or violence. Gustavo Fring wears an orange hazmat suit when he cuts the throat of his employee. When Walter says hi to his next-door neighbor after a long time, she screams and drops oranges, because she wasn't expecting him to appear back at his house. Though two of the show's most humorous characters, Saul Goodman and Hank Schrader, wear orange a lot. In fact, Orange is Hank's main color throughout most of the show. Red stands for blood and aggression. In Walter's famous "I am the danger" speech, he takes off a red overcoat only to reveal a darker red undershirt when he says that he is the danger. Gustavo Fring's meth lab is also painted red, mostly the floor, symbolizing how it's built upon blood. And Jesse wears a red shirt when he's forced to shoot someone. And this symbolism comes for LUDs and color gradings as well. If the entire screen's yellow, there's a whole sense of danger among this. Now, each character starts with a main color in Breaking Bad. Walter's main color is green, and we want to observe the way it changes throughout the seasons. Skyler's main color is blue. Just from looking at each of these charts, you can see how they've completely changed throughout the entire show. With Walter wanting a lot in the first seasons, at first, and then being drowned in his own blood in the end. And he's covered in blood in the end. Jesse, starting out being a very violent person, later at the very final episode, learns to have new beginnings and start anew. Hank starts out humorous and brave, and he turns into a broken man. Meanwhile, Marie just stays the same. Has a different approach to this type of color coding. Instead of having a color code, it's more of a color scale. There's the very criminal and the law-abiding. Red being most criminal, and blue being most law-abiding, most lawful. Cold colors versus hot colors, basically. The hot being symbolic of, when you're being chased by the police, you're considered hot. Hot as in, like, they're hot on your trail. Howard Hamlin, the most law-abiding character on this show, goes as far as to wear the color purple, and also the owner of HHM, the biggest law firm in New Mexico, I think it is in the show, with green being right in the middle. Also on the scale, green is right in the middle. And being known as a criminal lawyer, Jimmy McGill's is all over the place. And also, every flashback in this show, in Better Call Saul, is blue, has blue color grading, sort of assuming that all these flashbacks are about Jimmy's life before he took a life of crime. Nacho Varga, who's trying to get out of the cartel business, but he's sucked in more and more. After trying to assassinate the big head honchos, he fails, and it just brings him in more and more. Mike descends into the criminality, but not as deep as Nacho. Also, Mike and Nacho are good friends in this. And Mike cares for Nacho, but he can't really do anything that he didn't do to himself. Chuck is retired, but he keeps trying to drag Jimmy down to his level. He keeps reminding him of his past. And Chuck is really the penultimate force of the show. He is the reason that Jimmy falls back into criminality. And backhand for everything that happened in Breaking Bad. Jimmy said it himself. Walter White couldn't have done it without him. And meanwhile, Kim Wexler, the second most law-abiding character in this show, who works under Howard Hamlin, and is Kim's girlfriend, who always brings him back to not being so criminally focused. But in the end, Jimmy ends up corrupting her as well, with his nefarious deeds. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment what your favorite color is. What your